This is Bharath here, or otherwise known as TradeShifu. And I'm with one of my pretty successful students, Agustin, who is a successful business owner himself. We met last year in LA at a business conference, and then he decided to put his trust in me and embrace me as his trading coach or mentor. And we completed our gold program in July, August 2017. And yeah, so this is unscripted. He just reached out to me a couple of days back saying these were his results. So I in turn reached out to him and wanted to congratulate him and celebrate his achievements. So yeah, Agustin, really happy for you. And how do you feel after you finished the program, and what were your thoughts right after?
Thank you very much, Bharath. Well, I feel delighted. I have a lot of fun when I do the trading, but mostly what fulfills me is the fact that I have been finding consistent results over the last 2 months or so. Previously, obviously, I had to learn a lot of things. I made a lot of mistakes, and I had I had profits, then I had losses. But over the last 2 months, I was heavily doing paper trading on the strategies, finding a lot of nuances, trying to figure out what was that I was doing wrong. I took one of the mostly given advices of all trading teachers, which is to have your diary. And in this case, a friend of mine gave it to me as a gift. Says I chose this notebook because I wanted it to be really useful for you, and that's why I decided to use it as my trading diary. So I have a lot of notes there. Right now, when I do any trade, I even write down the time, the implied volatility of the trade, and I don't use that data for the moment, but I started realizing that over time, when I was studying my trades, and I wanted to know which ones were not profitable, I had to know why.
Exactly.
So when I go back and notice some similarities between the trades, I could show you right here that I have big notes. Like, for example, this is in Spanish, but it says mistakes to be corrected, you know, like trades that didn't go well, and I go like, oh yeah, it was because of this. And I think that there are a couple of factors that are very important. First of all, it's really sticking to the techniques and not modifying them until you get quite some practice and quite some consistency. And the second one is, like you said in a couple of messages that we exchanged, you need to be persistent and you need to personalize it to your needs. So I've been finding consistency in the trades. I would say that in the last 20 trades or so, probably a little bit more, like 40. Most of them are paper trades, but about 25% of those are real money trades. I've been having probably an 80-20 earning-losing ratio. So I started learning how to not lose money, and the techniques were working pretty well, and I've come to make them more profitable for me. So I'm pretty happy. I would say I spend at least a couple of hours every day watching the stock charts and trying to find these small details. And I've more than gotten my money back. And I think that's because I've tried different techniques and I started to use the ones that were working for me.
Yeah, that's really good. You actually touched upon a lot of answers which I was which kind of could be separate by itself. Like, okay, let's talk about a few of the things. So from what I heard, one was that you're only working on one of the many strategies that we discussed. So you're just focusing on one strategy and getting that to work for you, correct? So we discussed, I think, over 15 to 20 strategies in the 8 weeks, right?
Right, right. So I started trying different techniques. I would say that my mistake was to do it with real money before I had real results with real data in the paper money trading. So uh, after I lost some money, I decided to go back to the paper trading. And I remember I took a couple of the trades that went wrong, and I went to back testing and tried to do them in different ways until they started to work. And then I started to do it again and again. I remember one day I made about 20 or 30 paper trades going to back testing. And then I started to notice things like, oh, the spread is too big. That's why it was so expensive. That's why I wasn't able to recover, you know? And particularly I found that I was getting the hang of this strategy. So I started saying, well, as long as I have success with this strategy, I don't need any other strategy. And if
Right.
I cannot trade every day of the year, that's okay, as long as my profits are bigger than my losses. So I started to focus on this one, and my mind is all the time thinking about the little things and how does the implied volatility is affecting the price or the spread. And I started watching, like, for example, if the cost of the trade is more than 5%, most of the time I'm going to lose. Or if I'm too greedy, that's one of the best discoveries I got. If I'm too greedy and I'm trying to get like more than 12 or 15% out of the trade, most of the time they're going to be losers. So if I'm not greedy and go like, okay, I'm going to invest my money wisely, I'm going to know what to aim for before the trade. I know how much money I want to make, how much money I'm going to invest out of my portfolio, and then I do the trade and I find like 90% of the times it's a winner. And when I lose, normally I lose double the percentage of what I earn um, in every trade. So I learned how to manage my emotions. That's another very important thing. I think that a lot of authors stress out how important it is to work with your feelings. They call it the trader psychology. I think it's like the most important barrier, because the moment I stopped being fearful or greedy, which I read are the two most harmful emotions for traders, the moment I stopped being fearful or greedy, I stopped doing trades without thinking.
Yeah,
And
in
that's
fact,
what
if you remember in the first week that we did cover, that's exactly in one of my slides, right after the slide where we go through setting expectations. So I go through greed and fear, which are the two most important. So even if you go to my Facebook group, the free Facebook group, the first ever blog article that's there on my Facebook group is also talking about these two things. So which, as much as I can say, which is why even during the entire 8 weeks, I kept constantly repeating this every single week. Like, the knowledge and learning and everything is fine as long as you hear it from somebody else. But the only way, especially in trading, when you're actually going to learn, or when you're actually going to reinforce that learning, is only when you're doing. So which is why, like, every live trade session or every Sunday session that we used to do, I always used to say, doing is more important than knowing. And so that is
Mhm.
the whole I would say secret behind trading. There isn't much, because as you might have read or heard, trading is basically 80% psychology and 20% technical skills. So everybody knows how to read charts, everybody knows what are the strategies, but at the end of the day, whether or not he's been able to make money really depends on how in control of yourself you are and how much you want from each one of them, like you explained. And so that is really good, and I'm quite happy for you. And not only just, you also mentioned that you have a very high success rate among trades, and also the fact that when you're making money, your winners are a lot more than your losers. So yeah, netting that, it's a pretty handy way to trade, knowing that you don't have any unexpected big losses. So it's not
Yeah.
that your journey has been any different than mine. So if you read my article that came out on the newspaper a few years ago, I had a pretty big loss as well. I didn't exactly read through what were the terms of the contract, and ended up losing more than 50% of my portfolio in one single trade. So it's just a matter of learning, and then once you actually learn that. So recently I was at the Tony Robbins event where I found out that pain and pleasure are the only two things that bring you forward in life. So either
Hmm.
you do something because it's giving you so much pleasure, or because it's given you so much pain that you move past it.
Yeah.
So different people have different ways of learning. I guess my way of learning was through pain. And so when I realized, okay, I made this mistake which made me lose 50% of my portfolio, so when I started paying more attention to actually looking at my trades again before I confirm. And yeah, so it's really great to hear. And so what would your advice be for somebody who is already, say, one who is considering taking my coaching program, or for somebody who's already in the program and who wants to get the most out of it? Like, what did you do differently from the rest of them that got you the results, and where you've been?
Well, first of all, I would say if you have decided that you want to do this, you need to invest in good quality information, and having a mentor is worthless because doing it by yourself is a very lonely path and a very it takes a lot of time to learn if you don't have somebody that tells you, hey, you didn't check this out. So having somebody and having the group has been really, really inspiring. Watching other people doing their trades before I began doing mine was really, really helpful because I knew that it was okay to fail sometimes and to learn from those mistakes. That was one. The second one is you see that it can be done. And when I started finding other strategies, I saw that you don't have to use the same strategy that other people use. So if you are thinking about it and you are serious about going in, don't try to get something, uh, I would say, that has doesn't have the quality, or I mean, the words would be, don't be shy to invest because you're gonna get a lot. And the best thing that you're gonna get is not the information, is not the strategies that are found in books on the internet. It's having a group of peers that can take your hand and say, hey, don't be down if you lost some money. It happens. It happened to me. I lost a lot of money before I found consistency in the tradings. And the second thing I would say is if you are already there, just don't stop and practice a lot. I have seen that the more time you put into it and analyzing your mistakes and your good traits, the more you're going to learn about yourself and how you are going to protect yourself from yourself, because I think that's the biggest obstacle, the biggest threat, our psychology, as we already said. So if you're thinking about it, I would say that if you are going to practice and put it to work, you're going to get your money back pretty fast. It's not going to be from one day to the other. It's not going to be probably without losing some money in some you're going to be trying or you're going to fail. But eventually, if you do it intelligently, you're never going to lose all your money, and you're going to be able to recover what you lost, and you're going to be trusting the fact that you will be able to do it because you're going to find that consistency that I've eventually found. But
Yeah.
you gotta do it, you gotta take action, you gotta practice, and you gotta keep reading, keep studying, reviewing the materials, your notes, everything. I think it's a whole career, and it's a career that anybody can have. I'm really delighted with it. I love it. I Some people say, "Thank God it's Friday." I say, "Thank God it's Monday." And
Yeah.
whenever it's Friday, I go like, "Oh my God, today it's without the stock exchange." And it's not only because I'm trading, because there are days when I don't trade. I also learned that sometimes the best move is not to move. So I think the best thing I've gotten from this is I am feeling I'm getting more intelligent at managing my finances, because I get to decide that some days I don't even touch the keyboard when it comes to trading. I go like, this doesn't make any sense. And knowing that to me has been like discovering a new word. And it's a word that I love and a word that I really appreciate. So I I have to say thanks a lot, Bharath. And I have to say what I wrote in the private group, which is I met you, we became friends in a very, very nice event. And after that, you became my mentor. I trusted you because I knew that you were doing things in a clever way. Every time I talk to somebody who's doing trading, I normally ask questions to know whether they are just speculating or they are doing things thinking and having a good strategy. And that's why I trusted you, and that's why I'm here today.
Yeah, that's really kind of you, Augustine. Thank you. And I think another distinction that I just went through my head was how important the trade journal is. I think a lot of what you post in the Facebook group about your insights on how you were able to take my strategy that was given and then make it better and have a much better success rate. I think a lot of it goes to knowing what kind of trades you're doing, what kinds of trades are making profits for you, what is working for you, what is not. And like I emphasized during the coaching as well, the trade journal is really, really important, and it is the only thing that is going to tell you what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have a record of it, uh, frankly, nobody is going to have a record, and it's going to be really, really difficult to measure and improve something that you have no record of. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. So maybe you can just say a couple of lines about how important maintaining a trade journal is.
Well, the trade journal is about the most important thing you have to have before you enter a trade. Mostly, I think, because whenever I make a mistake, I put a big, big note there. It has the date, it has the ticker, it has the prices, it has everything. And here's a trade where I lost 2.7%. And this is the reason. So I wrote a note. So I started doing my kind of my rules. And I don't go emotional anymore because of these rules. If I don't find that the trade is gonna be in my favor, I just don't do it. So I have a lot of trades here, but I also have pages full of notes with my uh, thinking. I have one note that I think is very important here. It says, be patient, especially if it's early during the day, and be willing to lose 10 to 15% in the trade. Your trajectory is good, and wait until 12 p.m. before closing a losing position, because I found that most of the time, there were times when I was like really nervous, losing like 15% of the trade. I was like, is this gonna be a really bad day or what? And then the market made a move, and the strategy I use is made for movement. So I started earning money, and a loser turns into a winner. So you need to really be in charge of your emotions. I could only write this kind of conclusion after feeling bad because of a bad trade, and then watching over all the trades and seeing, hey, this is just one loser among 9 or 10 winners, and I started adding up all the amounts, and I said, hey, even if this was a loser, it would have been a good week, you know? The balance would have been positive. So I started watching the balance instead of the individual trades. And this was because of the trading journal, because of the way I am recording everything. Now I can say, hey, what would happen if I entered this trade with um, this situation before the day I'm going to trade at night. I go back to my notes. I select the stocks that I want to trade the next day, and I go through the criteria, and I go like, this doesn't meet this criteria. This stock is not going to be something I'm gonna do tomorrow. And what you can see here, for example, is let me see. Like here, for example, just 3 days ago, February 21st, I don't know if you can kind of read that, but
Yeah. If I can
you
read
can
that.
see, you can see paper here. So I made, that day, I made one trade. Here it is. I made a mistake. There was I made a mistake on the spread. So I make a note, and I've been really happy lately about the fact that losers become neutral trades. Like here it is. I earned $30 actually, and without the commissions, probably I was like even. But the biggest thing is that I made a mistake and I wrote about it. But then after that, I made 9, 10 paper trades during the day. So whenever I make a mistake, I go back and say, well, let's see if I can do this on paper and make it better, you know. And I wouldn't be able to say with words how much insight that has given me. Sometimes I'm even in the shower, I'm thinking, oh, right, I should be careful with this. Or sometimes I go like, if I buy a strike that is a couple of steps out of the money, then the delta is gonna. So you start to really understand how other things work, and your brain would not be able to understand that the first time when you first go through the materials. I mean, I had to really let it sink before I could start thinking about delta, gamma, and all the Greeks, and how time value is affecting the options, and how time decay is affecting my trades. Yesterday, I was just realizing how implied volatility affects the price of my trades, and that it could make all the difference. So for the moment, I'm not using that data, but I'm realizing that it might be something that I could use in the future to make it even more consistent.
Yeah, that's really good. So in fact, even for the particular strategy that we are discussing, uh, one of the things or one of the rules that I was given to you is you wait until a maximum of 12 p.m. before you close the trade. So because of all the back testing that I have done, so this is when I found the maximum move for the underlyings to happen, and so that was why I gave the rule. So it just makes sense to follow the rules, and then if you find something for say few underlyings, then you tweak it around, then it's fine. But it's generally good to just follow the rules as is, and then find out how you can make it better, like what did work, what did work. So yeah, that is really key. And I think one more thing that you mentioned was how important writing down all of these were. This is basically what you were able to get after doing the trade. So it's not just recording before the trade, but during the trade, after the trade, to then go back and see what went wrong, what went right. So which is what I keep even saying. The easy guide to consistency is just doing more of what works and doing less of what does not work. So not every strategy is going to work for everybody. And even when I discussed the 20 odd strategies, I did mention in the first week, you do not have to try all of these strategies if you don't want to. Just try whatever strategy that you think you're comfortable in, you think you're confident in. And also another thing that I also emphasized was how much you should be paper trading before you put your real money into it, because no matter if it's an MMA fight, if it's a soccer match, as much as you want to get into the actual game, you have to give, like, more than anything else, it's to just make yourself confident, make yourself the belief that okay, I have made this happen during a demo match, during a practice match, during a warm-up game, so I can replicate this in the actual game. So yeah, that's really good. So yeah, we've done, I think, pretty much everything that I would have asked any of my students to do. So I'm not surprised why you're getting all the results now, although you had a slightly uh, shaky start at the beginning, but I mean, that's only natural. So I think most of them would probably say that okay, they never lost money, but I'm not one of them. So even when I made a loss, I think, for example, when I make a losing trade, I do post them on Facebook. I think I posted them a couple of times. So I'm not embarrassed or ashamed to say that, oh, I've never had a losing trade. If you go around, I think most of the coaches will tell you that they've never lost money, or they've made 200 trades in a row that are successful. But it's okay, I don't have to be one of them. So it just happens. You can't go into a fight without expecting not to get punched. So if you're that good, then of course it does not happen. But of course we are not there, so it's bound to happen. And so yeah, it's really good to hear. And also in terms of support, although the Facebook group was just meant for sharing among the people who took the course. So how would you say my support has been even after, like, what, 6 months after your course? I think I, as far as I remember, I've either liked, commented on every single post that I've seen anybody post, and I think any of the questions that I see, I tend to answer them as soon as I can.
Well, I've gotten support continuously, and we even met at a certain time when I had some doubts. I posted a question. You were kind enough to spend a few minutes with me talking about the options that I had.
The covered call strategy on Apple, or yeah.
Yeah. So we talked about the different options that I had. So the support is continuous, and the more you participate in the group, you get more support. So any question is answered either by you or the community, and that's very, very, very helpful, because sometimes a comment from somebody from the community is going to bring up a question from them that you didn't have, but is very important to know on your particular trade. So the support has been great. I love the group. I would say that I use Facebook like 90% is only to go to that group, and the rest is to do things about my business. So the first thing I open when I open Facebook is I go to the group and see what's happening, because I want to know what other people are doing. If people are posting questions about my own trades, I love to answer them because they get me into thinking mode. How did you do this? And I go like, wow, I don't know. I need to have a rule for that, or to put it in a sentence to know if I'm doing right or not. Like, I've done few mistakes that have been really big. Like, for example, the other day I wanted to close a position, and instead of closing, I pressed the wrong button, and I doubled my position. And that made me lose a lot of money because it was a winning position. And then I bought a lot of stock options at a really, really expensive price, you know. So I learned, and the first thing I do right now is to check whether I'm opening or closing the position.
Yeah, it's okay. You don't have to feel bad. That's happened to me 3 times
I
so far,
know.
and I remember every single time that has happened. So I'm pretty sure it's happened to everybody who trades with a laptop and a mouse.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too. So, but you know, the great thing, it costed me like $800 to learn that, but I know I will never forget it again. So maybe it's gonna save me a lot of money. So I'm not feeling bad about it. I learned how to process that emotion, and I'm okay with it. You know.
Yeah, so it's really great to hear. And yeah, again, I just like to say thank you for spending this 10 minutes, 15 minutes with me to basically talk about what you've achieved so far. And I think it not only makes me happy to hear that you've been making progress, not just, financially, but, emotionally as well. And you're happy with where you're going in terms of your trading, with everything else. And more than anything else, it also is motivating and inspiring for other people who, are or were in the same position and were thinking whether or not they should do this, whether or not it's for them, or whether
Hmm.
they get into this thinking that it's going to be easy. And I say this over and over again, like this is not easy. You will have to put in work. It always comes down to how much practice you do. And yeah, of course, it's going to be different learning rates for different people, but eventually if you stay long enough in the game, you are going to succeed. So yeah, I'm really happy for you, Augustine, and yeah, I wish you a lot more success in the future. And every time you discover something new, hopefully we'll have something to talk about and share with all of us in the group. And of course, whenever I come to Mexico, we'll definitely meet and have some lunch,
Of
beer,
course.
whatever it is.
Of course. Thank you very much, Bharath. And I I just feel great, and part of it is thanks to you. So thank you very much, and I hope you visit Mexico because we're gonna have a lot of fun.